The jungle prison. The jungle was silent, too silent. Grant Voss could hear nothing but the sound of his own boots crunching over dry leaves. He held his plasma cutter tightly and moved carefully through the thick green vines. His scanner had picked up something strange, an old energy signal. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was caged. He was just a salvager from Earth, not a hero. But something about this place made his skin crawl. Every step deeper into the jungle felt like stepping into the past, into something forgotten, something forbidden. Then he saw it. Half buried under thick roots and overgrown plants stood a large metal cage, rusted bars. A faint humming sound came from its base, a broken force field still trying to work. Inside the cage, two shapes moved in the darkness. Grant froze. They were women, but not human. One had glowing silver eyes, sharp ears, and skin, like polished stone. The other had purple markings running down her arms, her long black hair tied back like a warrior. Both were bruised, their clothes torn, and their faces tired, but fierce. They had been fighting. Blood stained the floor, but the moment they saw him they stopped. The silver-eyed one stepped forward. Her voice was cracked but strong. "You're human." Grant didn't speak. He was still trying to understand what he was looking at. "You don't belong here," she said. "And neither do you," he replied quietly. The other woman, the one with the warrior's face, limped closer and grabbed the bars. "Are you going to watch like the others? Or are you here to free us?" Grant's hand moved slowly to his tool belt. "Who locked you up?" The warrior laughed, a bitter sound. "Does it matter? We were taken. Thrown in here like beasts, made to fight each other, for entertainment. Now, we wait for death." Grant looked around. Bones lay scattered outside. The cage, some alien, some not. The smell of old blood hung heavy in the air. "Why fight each other?" he asked. The silver-eyed one answered this time. "We were told only one of us would be spared, so we fought." Grant stepped closer to the cage. The lock wasn't simple. It was alien tech, fused into rusted metal. But it was weak now. He didn't know their names. He didn't know if they would attack him once they got out, but he couldn't walk away. He crouched beside the cage and powered up his plasma cutter. Sparks flew as metal hissed and screamed. "You're going to free us?" the warrior asked, surprised. "Yes," Grant said. "No one deserves this." They watched him in silence. After a few minutes, the door finally cracked open with a loud metallic snap. The warrior stepped out first, her body swaying but her posture strong. The silver-eyed woman followed slowly, cautious, alert like a wild animal. Grant raised his hands. "Easy. I'm not your enemy." The silver-eyed woman looked into his eyes. "You are not. You are our savior." Before Grant could respond, the ground shook. Boom. Boom! Something heavy was coming. "Run!" the warrior shouted. "They've found us!" From the trees burst two alien hunters, tall, insect-like creatures with spears and sharp, glowing eyes. They saw the open cage. They roared. Grant turned, aimed his sidearm, and fired. One hunter dropped. The other leapt over the body and charged. But the two women didn't run. They moved like lightning. The silver-eyed one tackled the hunter mid-air, slamming him into a tree. The warrior grabbed a fallen spear and drove it deep into its chest. It was over in seconds. Grant stood, shocked. "You two, you're warriors." The silver-eyed woman nodded. "We were." The warrior smirked. "Now, we're something more." They both turned toward him. "You freed us," the silver-eyed one said. "That makes you chosen." "What?" The warrior stepped close. Her voice was low. "Among our people, freeing a bonded fighter from the death cage binds them to you. You are now our center, our purpose." Grant stepped back. Wait, are you saying?" The silver-eyed woman smiled faintly. "We are yours now, and we do not share easily." Grant's mouth opened. No words came out. The warrior tilted her head. "What's your name, human?" Grant, she repeated softly. "You risked everything for strangers. That means more to us than you understand. Come, the silver-eyed one said, taking his hand. Let us leave this cursed place. As they walked into the jungle, Grant could feel their eyes on him, not with fear, not with hatred, with something else. Whatever he had started by cutting that lock, it wasn't over. In fact, it was just the beginning. The jungle air was thick and hot, but Grant felt colder with every step. He had freed 2 alien women from a cage, and now they followed him, like shadows, silent, alert, and watching him. They didn't ask where he was taking them. They didn't need to. Wherever he went, they followed. He led them to his small outpost hidden between 2 rocky cliffs. It was an old survey pod converted into a shelter. The solar panels still worked, the generator hummed faintly, and the inside was clean. Not fancy, but it was home. Karin, the silver-eyed woman, stepped inside first. Her glowing eyes scanned the walls, the tools, and the food packs. She sniffed the air like a cautious animal, then nodded with approval. Philea, the warrior with purple markings, leaned against the doorway. Her arms were crossed, but her eyes were on Grant. He handed them both water and ration packs. Neither said thank you, but they ate with hunger that showed how long they had been starved. You're safe here, Grant finally said. No one knows this place exists. Karin spoke without looking up. You don't understand, human. We are not afraid of being found. We are afraid of what comes next. Grant frowned. What do you mean? Philea dropped her ration pack and walked forward slowly. You broke the cage, you cut the chains, you may not know it, but that act means something powerful to us. You invoked the right of flame. Grant blinked. The what? Karin sighed. Among our people there is an ancient law. It was once forgotten, but those who run the illegal pits still use it. If a male frees 2 bonded fighters, he becomes the center of a trial, a choice. A trial? Philea nodded. We were made to fight each other. Only one of us was meant to survive. You stopped that. Now the bond is broken, but also reborn. Both of us are unclaimed. Both of us owe life, and both of us have the right to challenge, for you. Grant stared at them. You're saying you want to fight again? Over me? Karin finally turned to face him. No, not fight. Compete. Philea's lips curled into a smirk. We don't want to hurt each other anymore. But we are both drawn to you now. It is our nature. You are the one who freed us. And that makes you the anchor. Grant shook his head. This is crazy. I'm just a guy who didn't want to watch 2 people suffer. Karin stepped closer, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dim light. That's exactly why this matters. You showed compassion. You risked your life. That means more to us than words can explain. But I'm not one of you, Grant said. I'm human, Philea chuckled. Does it matter? You are strong. You are kind. And you are ours now by the ancient bond. Grant backed up and sat on a crate. He rubbed his forehead, overwhelmed. So what happens now? Karin and Philea exchanged a look. Karin answered, We stay, we learn your ways, and we show you ours. Philea added, Then you choose. One, the other, or neither. Grant looked at both of them. Karin was calm, mysterious, her movements quiet and graceful. Philea was fire, direct, bold, always ready to act. They were opposites in every way, yet both had fierce strength and deep loyalty in their eyes. He had seen them fight side by side. He had seen them protect each other, and now they were saying they wanted to protect him. I don't know if I can choose, Grant whispered. Karin tilted her head. Then don't. Not yet. Let time decide. Philea grinned. But don't be surprised if we both try to win your heart. That night, as the stars shone above the jungle, the outpost felt different. Karin sat by the window, quietly humming a song from her world. Philea cleaned her blade, eyes sharp but peaceful. Grant stood outside, staring up at the moons. He didn't ask for any of this. He didn't want to be the center of anyone's fight. But deep down, something warm stirred in his chest. He had lived alone for years, always moving, always surviving. Now, two powerful beings had placed their trust in him, not as a warrior, not as a leader, but as someone worthy of love. Behind him, Karen's voice floated softly. The right. A flame is not about control. It's about honor, Grant. And Valea added, We don't belong to you. We choose to be with you. Grant closed his eyes. This wasn't just about rescuing two strangers anymore. This was the start of something bigger, something he didn't understand yet, but he was ready to find out. The air inside the outpost grew heavy over the next few days, not from heat but from something unseen. A quiet tension filled the small space. Grant could feel it in the way Karen walked, silent as a ghost, always watching him with calm, silver eyes. He felt it in the way Valea leaned too close when she spoke, her voice low and teasing yet sharp. They were not fighting anymore, but they were still competing, and Grant was the prize. He tried to focus on repairs. The scanner was half broken, the comms were shorting out, and the solar panels needed realignment. But whenever he reached for a tool, Karen was already there, holding it out before he asked. She moved around the outpost without making a sound, always knowing what he needed. You move like wind, Grant said once. Karen gave a small smile. I was trained to be invisible, but now I want to be seen by you. Grant didn't know what to say. Meanwhile, Valea took a different approach. She followed him into the jungle on supply runs, walking ahead, clearing paths with her blade, always protecting. She brought back fruits, roots, even hunted small creatures for food. One evening, she tossed a cleaned, lizard-like beast onto the fire and sat close beside him. You should eat more, she said, poking his ribs lightly. Too thin. You can't protect two mates like that. I don't have two mates, he replied. Valea grinned, her sharp teeth flashing. Not yet. Every night they took turns sleeping closest to him. Not too close, just close enough to be noticed. When he woke from strange dreams, Karen would be sitting nearby, eyes open in the dark. When he stepped outside for air, Valea would already be watching the trees, blades across her back. He didn't feel unsafe. That was the strange part. He felt watched, yes, but not in a bad way. It was like being surrounded by two wild animals, dangerous, but loyal. He had saved them, and now they were trying to save him in return, from loneliness perhaps. Still, he couldn't deny the pressure. Every word, every small action seemed to carry weight. If he smiled at Karen, Valea would glare. If he laughed at Valea's jokes, Karen would go quiet. The outpost felt like it was holding its breath. On the fourth night, something changed. Grant had gone outside to fix the antenna when the scanner lit up. An alert signal. A red flash. Then, a beep. Movement. He narrowed his eyes toward the jungle. A faint whirring sound followed. Then silence. He rushed back inside. Karen! Valea! They were already on their feet. Karen grabbed a pulse pistol from the weapon crate. Valea strapped on her short blades. What is it? Valea asked. Someone's out there, Grant said. I picked up a drone, small, fast, watching us. Karen's eyes darkened. They've found us, the slavers. Valea growled low. Let them come, I owe them blood. Grant stepped between them. We can't let them trap us here, we need a plan. Karen spoke calmly. Then we do what we were trained for. We set the field for them. Within minutes, the outpost transformed. Tripwires made from salvage. Shock mines Karen built. From broken drones. Valea placed her blades in hidden spots like traps. Grant helped where he could, trying not to feel out of place as the two alien women moved like they were born for war. That night, the tension shifted. No more flirting, no more small smiles. This was survival again, and in that they were united. But even in the calm before danger, the old rivalry simmered. You know he'll choose me, Valea whispered to Karen while checking weapons. Karen didn't look up. He will choose what he values most. Patience, peace, Valea scoffed. He values strength, fire, not shadows. Karen finally met her eyes. Then let him decide, not us. Grant heard them but said nothing. He sat on the steps, rifle across his lap, mind racing. He hadn't asked for this bond. He didn't even know what kind of future it promised. But now he was caught in the middle of something ancient, something deeper than love or law. The scanner beeped again. Closer. Valea's hand landed on his shoulder. Stay inside. We'll handle this. Karin joined her. If they take you, they'll make you a slave too. We won't allow it, Grant stood. You're not doing this alone. I saved you once. I'll fight beside you. The two aliens exchanged a look. Then Karin smiled faintly. Then perhaps you are one of us. The jungle rustled. They moved, as one. The storm was coming, and this time they would not run. Night fell like a curtain, heavy and full of tension. The jungle outside the outpost seemed to hold its breath. Even the insects had gone quiet. Grant sat inside, his rifle across his lap, eyes darting toward the door every few seconds. Valea and Karen were outside, moving through the trees like shadows. They refused to let him stand guard. You're the reason we're free, Valea had told him. Let us protect that freedom. But Grant hated waiting. He hated hiding while others risked their lives. Still, he stayed inside, watching the scanner. 2 red dots appeared, then 3, then 6. A soft alarm beeped in warning. They were surrounding the outpost. Suddenly, a sharp hiss echoed through the night, followed by the crackle of a trap activating. Then a loud scream. One of the slavers had stepped on a shock mine. Grant rushed to the doorway just as Karin glided into view, crouched low, dragging a stunned enemy toward the trees. Her hands were fast and silent, disabling his weapon and cutting his comm. Behind her, Valea exploded from the bushes with a roar, blades flashing. She leapt into the air and crashed onto a second attacker, slamming him to the ground with brutal force. Blood sprayed across the leaves. No hesitation, no mercy, but they weren't alone. More slavers broke through the jungle, firing energy shots that lit up the darkness in red and blue. One beam struck the outpost's outer wall, leaving a burning hole in the metal. Grant ducked, heart pounding. He grabbed a second weapon and rushed out, ignoring their earlier orders. He couldn't just watch. Karin spotted him instantly. I told you to stay inside. They're after me too, he shouted back, firing a shot that struck a slaver in the leg. I won't let you fight alone. Valea laughed as she slid beside him, slicing an enemy's weapon in 2. Now you're talking, human. The battle grew louder. The outpost was surrounded, but Karen's traps slowed the enemy's advance. The ground exploded near the entrance, sending 2 slavers flying. Smoke filled the air, screams echoed through the trees. Then Grant saw him, the commander, a tall armored slaver with glowing yellow eyes and a long whip of energy. He stood behind the others, shouting orders in a guttural language. Karen whispered, That one controls them. We cut off the head, the body falls. Grant nodded. Then let's take the head. Valea crouched beside him, her eyes burning with excitement. I'll distract, you shoot. Without warning, she charged straight into the center of the fight. Her battle cry tore through the air as she spun and danced between attackers, drawing all eyes to her. Karin slipped through the smoke, silent as wind, heading toward the commander. Grant moved carefully behind her, raising his rifle. The commander noticed too late. Karen struck first, low and fast. Her foot swept under him, but he reacted quickly, swinging the energy whip toward her. It cracked against her side and she cried out, falling back. Grant shouted and fired. The bullet struck the commander's shoulder, sending him reeling. He turned toward Grant, fury in his eyes. The whip snapped through the air again, this time aimed at Grant. But Valea was there. She threw herself between them, taking the hit across her back. She grunted in pain but didn't fall. Instead, she roared and charged, grabbing the whip and yanking the commander forward. Karin, bleeding but still standing, rose behind him and pressed her blade to his neck. "Yield," she growled. He spat. So, she ended it. The commander fell to the jungle floor, still and silent. The rest of the slavers froze. Without orders, without leadership, they scattered like insects. Within minutes, the jungle was quiet again. The fire from the burning outpost crackled softly in the background. Grant dropped to his knees beside Valea. "You're hurt." She laughed weakly. "Only a little. I've had worse." Karen joined. Them, her side still bleeding. "We need to clean the wounds and rest." Grant looked at both of them, chest heaving, heart racing. He had fought beside them, bled with them. They had risked their lives again, not just for each other, but for him. He helped them both back into the outpost. The inside was damaged but still standing. He gave them water, wrapped their wounds and sat between them in silence. "You could have run," Karen said softly, "but you stayed. You didn't have to take that hit," he replied to Valea. She smiled. "Maybe I did." The flames outside slowly died down. The stars came back. Grant closed his eyes and leaned back. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider. He felt like part of something. A strange, wild family built not by blood, but by choice. They had fought for him, and now he would fight for them, no matter what came next. The outpost was quiet again, but nothing felt the same. Smoke still drifted through the trees, and the air smelled like burnt metal. Yet inside, there was calm. Grant sat between Karin and Valea, their wounds wrapped, their bodies resting, but their minds wide awake. None of them could sleep, not after a night like that. Karen sat near the window, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Her silver eyes watched the stars, but her thoughts were far away. Grant noticed how her breathing stayed soft, how she didn't flinch from pain. She carried herself with dignity, even while injured. "Karin," he said quietly, "tell me something about yourself. Anything." She looked at him slowly. Then, after a pause, she spoke. "I was born to a silent house," she said, "a family of diplomats and listeners. I was trained to speak with eyes, not with words, but I hated silence. So I joined the warrior sisters instead." Grant leaned closer. "You chose to fight?" Karen nodded. "Yes, but I was never the strongest. I was quick, smart. I didn't win fights. I ended them quietly. I never expected to be captured. I never expected to be thrown into a cage, like an animal." Her voice trembled, just once. Grant reached out, touched her hand gently. She didn't pull away. "You're not in a cage now," he said. She looked down at their hands and whispered, "Not unless your heart stays locked." Grant blinked, not sure how to answer. On the other side of the room, Valea shifted and gave a half laugh. "Karen always speaks like she's reading poetry," she said. "Let me tell you how it really is." Grant turned to her. "I want to hear your story too." Valea grinned, then winced from the pain in her back. "Fine. But don't feel sorry for me. I was born in a war camp. My mother was a soldier, my father I never met. We trained with swords before we could walk. I've never known peace. Not until now." She looked straight at Grant, her tone changing. "You think you saved us, human? You did more than that. You showed us something we never believed was real." "What's that?" She leaned closer. "Kindness, a life that doesn't hurt, a reason to laugh." Grant didn't laugh. He stared at her, at the strength in her eyes, and said softly, "You do laugh. I've heard it." Valea smiled slowly. "Only around you." The silence between the three grew heavier, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was thick with truth, with things they hadn't said out loud until now. Grant felt his heart pulling in two directions. Karin, calm and deep, like water. Valea, wild and bright, like fire. Both had protected him. Both had shared pain with him. And both had started to heal in their own ways. But now came the part he feared most. "I don't know how to choose," he admitted, breaking the silence. I care about both of you. Karen turned her gaze away from the stars. Then don't choose yet. Valea nodded slowly. We can wait. But not forever. Grant stood and walked outside. The stars above him were cold and bright. He felt small under their light. But not alone. Not anymore. Footsteps followed. It was Karen. She stood beside him, her hands behind her back. Do you know what the rite of flame truly means, Grant? He shook his head. It's not about ownership, it's about transformation. A bond born in fire must cool into something real. Respect, trust, love. He looked at her. Are you saying I should just let time decide? She smiled gently. No, I'm saying let your heart speak when it's ready. More footsteps. Valea joined them. Or let it shout. Whatever works. Grant laughed softly for the first time in days. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. The past behind them was painful, the future uncertain. But the present was a strange kind of peace. I never thought I'd end up here, Grant said. On a jungle moon, with two alien warriors fighting over me. Valea nudged him. You make it sound like a bad thing. Karen chuckled. It's not, it's a gift. One most men will never know. Grant looked at them both. Then I'll treat it like one. In that moment, nothing needed to be decided. Not tonight, not tomorrow. The choice of the heart didn't need to be forced. It would come, not with a fight, but with time, with healing, with trust. And Grant was willing to wait for it. The morning light broke through the jungle trees, soft and golden, but the peace it brought was brief. Karen stood at the edge of the clearing, her hands folded and her face calm, yet something flickered behind her silver eyes, doubt perhaps. Valea was sharpening her blade again, though no enemy threatened them now. Grant watched them both, feeling a quiet pressure building in the air. It wasn't about danger this time. It was about choice, about the ancient law that still hung between them like smoke. Karen turned first. It's time. Grant frowned. Time for what? Valea stood, brushing dirt from her armor. The trial, the final part of the rite of flame. I thought that was done, Grant said. Didn't I already break the cage? Karen walked toward him slowly. You broke metal, not tradition. The rite only ends with a decision or a bond. But I told you I can't choose. Valea stepped forward. Then you'll have to choose both, or lose everything. Karen nodded. There is a way, a path few take, a shared bond. One human, two mates, but it must be earned, proven. Grant stared at them. How? Karen lifted a small object from her belt, an old relic, round and glowing faintly blue. This is the flame core. It judges the bond. We must enter the trial grove together, face what lives there. If we survive, and the bond remains unbroken, the flame will mark us all. And if it breaks? Grant asked. Valea said nothing. Her silence was the answer. They packed lightly. The trial grove was deep in the jungle, hidden beyond thick vines and ancient stones. Animals fled from the path they took. Even the birds above seemed to avoid it. Grant felt sweat gathering on his skin, not from heat but from the weight of what they were about to do. They reached a wide clearing. At the center was a flat circle of stone, cracked by time and covered in faint symbols. Vines wrapped around pillars. 3 small fire bowls stood waiting, one for each of them. Karen placed the flame core in the center. It begins when all 3 step into the circle, she said. Grant looked at them. And what do we face? Valea's voice was steady. Each other. As soon as their feet touched the stone, the air shimmered. The jungle fell away. The world around them twisted. Suddenly they stood in a dark void, surrounded by glowing mist. Images flickered in the air. Memories, fears, regrets. The first trial began with Valea. She stood alone, a small version of herself, watching her mother fall in battle. Grant saw her knees shake. He stepped forward, wanting to help, But Karin held him back. She must face it, she said. Valea's younger self turned and ran. But her real self stepped forward and knelt by the body. I was just a child, she whispered. But I'm not afraid now. The vision faded. Next came Karin. She stood in a chamber of mirrors. Each reflection showed a different version of her. Diplomat, warrior, prisoner, ghost. You never knew who you were, a voice echoed. You just copied others. Karin touched one mirror gently. I am all of them, she said. And none. She turned away. The mirrors shattered. Mist swallowed the pieces. Then it was Grant's turn. He stood in front of his own reflection, alone, tired, with scars he didn't remember getting. A voice from behind whispered, You're not strong enough. You're just a man. What can you give them? He looked at Karin and Valea beside him. I can give them honesty, he said. I can give them peace, that's enough. The mist pulled back. The stone circle returned. All three stood where they began, but everything had changed. Karin's hand reached for the flame core. It glowed brighter, pulsing with heat. We must light the bowls, she said. Valea stepped forward first, cutting her palm and letting her blood drip into the first bowl. The fire rose high, red and wild. Karin did the same. Her flame was silver and slow, dancing softly in the wind. Then Grant stepped forward. He hesitated, then placed his hand over the center bowl. He didn't cut himself. Instead, he placed both hands flat on the stone. I give my heart, he said, willingly, to both. The center fire exploded in golden light, lifting into the air and wrapping around all three. The flame didn't burn. It welcomed. The rite of flame accepted them. They stood, breathing hard, eyes shining. No words were needed. The bond was complete, not forced by law, not chosen by war, but created through truth. As they stepped out of the grove, Grant reached for both their hands. Karin took his left, Valea his right. Together they walked back through the jungle, not three strangers, not two rivals, and a man caught in the middle. They walked forward as one. The journey back from the trial grove felt different. The jungle no longer seemed wild or threatening. The shadows were still there, the sounds still strange, but something had changed inside them all. Grant walked between Karin and Valea, their hands linked with his. No words passed between them, yet the silence was full of meaning. He had not just rescued them from a cage. He had rescued something inside himself too, a piece that had long been lost to loneliness and guilt. They returned to the outpost before nightfall. Smoke stains still marked the outer wall, and broken branches showed signs of the recent battle. But now it felt less like a hiding place, and more like a home. Valea dropped her pack by the entrance and stretched her arms with a loud sigh. Karin knelt by the fire pit and began clearing ashes with gentle hands. I'll rebuild the wall tomorrow, Grant said. Make the place stronger. You are stronger, Karin replied without looking up. More than when we met. Valea grinned. He was soft before, now he walks like a bonded male. Grant chuckled. Is that a compliment? It's better than a sword, she smirked. The evening passed with quiet comfort. They cooked together. Valea taught him how to roast alien root without burning it. Karin showed him how to weave vines into strong rope. It was the first time Grant felt like he wasn't just helping them survive, he was living with them. Later, as the stars returned to the sky, Grant sat on a rock, staring into the fire. Karin joined him first, wrapping a soft cloth over his shoulders. She didn't speak, just sat beside him, calm and warm. You've changed me, he said quietly. Both of you. Karin looked at him with soft eyes. You changed yourself. We just helped you see it. Moments later, Valea dropped down on his other side. She leaned her head on his shoulder and sighed. I never thought I'd share a mate. You're still not sharing, Karin said with a smile. You're multiplying. They all laughed. But soon the laughter faded into quiet again, and Grant felt the weight of everything they had survived. The slavers, the cage, the choice. He turned to them both. What happens now? he asked. Valea answered first. We stay, we build, we heal. Karen nodded. And we protect each other. But your people, Grant said, won't they come looking for you? They think we're dead, Valea replied. Let them keep thinking that. We're not ready to go back, Karen added. Maybe we never will. Grant looked down. I was drifting through the galaxy, just trying to survive. Now I can't imagine leaving this place. Karen touched his hand. Then don't. A breeze moved through the trees, cool and soft. The fire cracked gently, casting warm light across their faces. For a long time they said nothing, just watched the flames. Then Valea reached into her belt pouch and pulled something out. A small, smooth crystal. She placed it in Grant's hand. What's this? A token, she said. From my mother. Given only to those who earn respect in battle. I've never given it to anyone. Grant looked at her, stunned. Why me? Because you fought without needing to. You stood between us and danger. You didn't run. Karen then unfastened a thin silver chain from her wrist and placed it over his. And I give this. It once bound me in silence. Now it binds me to you, by choice. Grant stared at the gifts in his hands. 2 warriors, 2 survivors. 2 hearts that had every reason to harden, yet still chose to trust. He felt emotion rising in his throat. I don't have anything to give you back. You already gave it, Karen said. Valea smiled. You gave us freedom. And something better. Grant looked up. What? A future. That night they slept under the stars, not as prisoner and savior, not as alien and human, but as a bond, formed through fire, sealed through choice, and held together by something far deeper than law or blood. Love didn't need to be spoken, it just needed to be lived. And in that quiet jungle clearing, far from war, far from pain, something new began. Not a rescue, not a mission, a life, together.